My wife was always interested in social work and the caring professions. One of her projects was to visit the women of Worsfield Heath, many of whom were experiencing marriage problems and the strains and stresses of bringing up children in one-parent situations. My wife's death occurred during one of such visits and was purely accidental. No blame of any sort attaches to the officer whose motor bicycle skidded on a wet road surface, and I wish him a speedy recovery. He was doing his duty and playing a vital part in the defense of our democratic way of life. My late wife also died in carrying out duties which she believed important. Thank you, that is all.
Well, it's down. You feel when you first heard the time you
Mister, did you approve of your wife going to Worsfield Heath?
Of course, I had the greatest admiration for her social work.
Are you saying that you took no part in the demonstration against cruise missiles?
Certainly, my wife had no political beliefs.
Minister, was your wife a member of CND?
I can categorically assure you my wife was not a member of that organization.
Minister, don't you approve of the Worsfield women?
I respect their sincerity. I think they're terribly misguided, but we're all after the same thing, aren't we? Peace in our time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if that's all.
Minister, what's your plan for the future?
Go on doing my job as long as the Prime Minister wants me, and she hasn't said she doesn't.
Minister, one more question.
My life will be devoted to the care and upbringing of our son.
Just ask you one more question.
That's me and Nicholas and Elspeth Hazel and the Contessa just before the war. Oh, wedding day. Nicholas and his young bride.
You?
Dressed from head to foot by Molyneux and smiling. Smiling at all my well-kept secrets. That's here at Rapston on the front lawn. We're all dressed up as film stars of some unknown reason. Now, look. Who do you think that is in the baggy trousers and the little moustache?
You.
Exactly. That's your old granny. Dressed up as Charlie Chaplin.
Who's the Arab?
Oh, no, I think that is, the rector, as Rudolph Valentino. Oh. That's one of the useful things about clergymen. They're so accustomed to dressing up. There's Doty Strove with Mae West. I suggest we turn a blind eye on that one.
Was my mother there?
No, she wasn't even born. She never had any of the fun. Oh, poor Charlie.
Where's that?
Cap Ferrat. 1942. Derby Day. Hitler couldn't stop the Derby. Have you learned about Hitler at school?
No, we don't really learn about Hitler.
Oh, look, that's me at the Café de Paris in my Teddy Molyneux evening jacket. Gold sequins. I came in a shower of golden coins like, Helena of Troy or...
Danai.
What?
It was Danai Jupiter came down to in a golden shower.
Oh, well, yes, you would know that. That's the sort of thing they do teach you now. Not something useful like Hitler. Would you like to see my old Molyneux jacket? I've still got it.
See what?
My still stunning evening jacket.
I wouldn't mind.
Nicholas, come along.
I didn't hear you knock exactly.
Get into the car. We'll send for the bicycle later. Wait in the car.
Goodbye, Gran.
Goodbye, darling. Would you mind explaining?
My son's got better things to do with his life than spend his afternoons stuck in a bedroom with a drunken grandmother going through her moth-eaten wardrobe.
Leslie!
Don't you think he's been done enough harm by your family?
Mine?
His mother didn't care about him. Oh, she pretended to. She pretended to want him near, but she cared more about her dotty causes. She cared more about feeling she was saving the world. She wouldn't have got herself killed if she'd really cared about Nicky.
But I am not Charlie!
No. No. You're not even Charlie. You're just a lonely old woman with no one but a child to bore with the stories about the times you had and the scratchy old gramophone records you used to dance to. Silly tales about a collection of useless people.
You were once frightened here, weren't you?
I was.
When you were a child. I heard you screaming in the dark in our downstairs loo. You were scared to pieces. Is that what you've got against us?
I'm looking after Nicky now. I don't want any help with that. Thank you.
Do come in, Dr. Simcox. Why haven't you called? I've left messages, countless messages at your surgery. Where have you been?
I suppose trying to find out the truth. Not the sort of thing you would encourage as a lawyer.
As lawyers, we put our case. We leave the truth for the trial judge to find.
You must know it, though.
I must.
You must know why he wrote that will. You must know why he left everything to Leslie Titmuss.
Now, why should I know that, Dr. Simcox?
Because for years you were his solicitor.
Alas, we know so little of our clients. In any event, your father chose a Worsfield firm for his extraordinary last will. Do sit down.
That must have been a reason. You don't want to find it, though. Of course, you're arguing my brother's case. That's what he's paid you to do.
We all have to live, don't we, Dr. Simcox? There are people, I suppose, who would say we both thrive on the sickness of mankind. That, I feel, would be an uncharitable view.
He must have told you something.
Very little. But then I don't think your father had a great deal of respect for lawyers. There's something you can tell me, though. Perhaps you could throw some light on what we have come to call the Tom Nout incident. We use these oversimplified headings.
Tom Nout?
A man from the village. Your brother has seen photographs of Nout and your father looking entirely friendly. But didn't your father suddenly forbid you to visit Nout's cottage?
Not only his cottage, his hut in the woods.
Wasn't that rather extraordinary? Your father, who was supposed to be so liberal, such a democrat, a friend to the entire world, did he forbid you to visit any of the other cottages?
No. No, I don't think so.
A sudden, irrational phobia, you see. That's the view of the psychiatrist we shall be calling. He turned against people for no reason. Eventually, he turned against his own family. Now, could you help me by remembering everything you know about the Tom Nout incident?
Why the hell should I want to help you?
Well, who do you want to help? Not Leslie Titmuss, surely.
I just couldn't sit in the queue of National Health patients with everybody staring at me, hearing them whispering about Simon. You do know he's due up before the magistrates?
Mrs. Mallard Green, I am a doctor, not a lawyer.
Receiving stolen property. He was just selling a few bits and pieces that he'd bought off some fellow in the Badger.
If that's true, no doubt he'll be triumphantly acquitted.
But if it isn't true? You've known Simon since he was a schoolboy. You know how highly strung he was as a child. He was always extremely nervous.
A nervous window cleaner.
I don't think Mally ever really understood him. And then there was the sibling rivalry with Sarah, of course. Simon was always trying to prove himself against a powerful father with a job in the BBC, all that achievement. I'm sure you could tell the magistrates. It is a well-known psychiatric condition.
What is? Receiving stolen property?
No. Simon needs help, Dr. Simcox. My Simon needs help.
Yeah. I remember this place when it used to be old Tom Nout's cottage.
Oh, I wish to God it was still Tom Nout's cottage. I wish to God we'd never seen the place. You know, it's supposed to be so restful living in the country. So secure, so peaceful. Shall I tell you what it's really like? It rains and it's boring. I never see Mally anymore. Oh, he comes home, but later and later. Simon's arrested. Not for drugs. Not for something like teenagers are supposed to do, but being mixed up in stealing. Do you know what this place is? It's dangerous. We would all have been so much better off in London.
Would you mind if I took a look at your woods? There used to be an old hut down at the bottom of the garden.
Oh, yes, it's gone. It went years ago. Mally was clearing up down there. You know, at that time he was feeling terribly rustic. You will tell them, won't you?
Tell them?
Tell the magistrates about Simon. Tell them that there's no point in them trying to blame him, really.
He'd better come and see me.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I knew you'd help. Underneath, I knew you'd understand. Thank you. Dr. Simcox, thank you, Dr. Simcox.
All right.
found anything yet?
No, found anything yet. Keep looking, Tom. Granny says so there'll be some over there. Go on, try over there.
Okay. Must be here somewhere.
Dr. Simcox.
What about by that tree?
You don't remember me, do you? Dora Nout. Old Tom's wife.
Dora.
Nobody used to take much notice of me. Not the wife. Tom was the one who had all the posh friends, wasn't he? Now, did you ever call on me when you was a little boy? Did you? No, you come straight down to see Tom in his old hut.
It's gone.
Oh, yes, they had it burnt down. Them townies who got our old cottage now. Your mother would have been upset about that.
Now just go and ask Granny.
My mother?
Is this it?
Yes, Tom. But you mustn't pick it. You must never pick those. There's the spider orchid. You don't often see one of the late ones. You knew where to find them, of course.
No, I never knew.
The late ones is rare. They're very rare, Mrs. Simcox told us.
My mother?
She used to visit Tom and me and the family. So she showed us the places. Always very good to Tom and the family, was your mother. You know, after the war, when Tom couldn't get work, when Lady Fanner put the police onto him, nobody would give him anything. Not beating, not wooding, nothing. Well, your mother helped us out then when Tom wanted to build his old hut in the woods. And we've always been grateful to her for it.
What about my father?
Oh, Tom used to see a lot of the rector in the old days. He used to take up rabbits to him. But after it all happened, we never used to see so much of the rector.
After all, what happened?
After Tom fell foul of her ladyship. No, he didn't see much of the rector after that. Well, Tom was never a churchgoer, was he? And your father was that busy putting the world to rights.
Would you let me have the flower that young Tom picked?
The spider flower? I hope it brings you luck.
Do you know what this is?
You don't, surely.
A late spider orchid. Rather rare. Do you know where they grow?
I think so.
By Tom Nout's old hut. Why did you never tell us?
What?
When we were young, why didn't you tell us where the wild orchids grew? Isn't that the sort of knowledge parents usually pass on to their children?
I didn't think you were interested. Henry was always writing in his school books. Most unsuitable stories from all I ever heard. And you were stuck up in your room drumming. I didn't think you'd have the slightest interest in wildflowers.
I suppose the Nouts had. Tom and Dora and young Janet Nout and the young grandchildren when they came along. You helped them find the orchids in their own wood.
We used to go for walks and find flowers before Simeon. Well, before.
Before what?
Before he got so occupied.
You helped Tom Nout when he was down on his luck.
That's the sort of thing Simeon approved of.
But he didn't approve of Tom. He was angry when I talked about his old hut. What sane reason did he have for that?
What sane reason?
You'll have to tell me sometime. And when I've found out, I'll tell Henry that he hasn't got a case.
Will you enjoy doing that?
That's what you want, isn't it, Mother? For heaven's sake, help me to do what you want.
What I want. What I want is for everyone to stop asking me questions. Mr. Bulstrode.
So good of your mother to go on helping with the flowers. Of course, Monica would take it over if it ever got too much.
Mr. Bulstrode, did you know Dr. Simcox was never confirmed? Simeon felt the boys could wait to be done until they'd made up their own minds. Freddie, it seems, never has. I wonder, could you oblige him with some sort of ceremony for those of riper years?
Oh, I say, I'd love to have a go. I haven't got all the answers, of course. What's the trouble exactly?
A few unanswered questions.
Oh, I do know. Yes, why the good, the omnipotent God allowed wars and concentration camps and children with leukemia.
That awful music in the Hartscombe supermarket.
I am as much in the dark as you are, I rather suspect. But if you could spare half an hour, perhaps we could sort of feel our way into the darkness together.
I'm afraid...
Aren't we all? But talking always helps. It really does.
I'm afraid I have a patient.
Coward.
It seems you're going to give evidence about my father, Wybrow.
I think that's probably a matter we shouldn't discuss, isn't it, Doctor?
Well, we'll all look forward to hearing what you've got to say.
I shall be sworn to tell the truth, shan't I, Dr. Simcox? The truth as I saw it happen.
Not bad, hmm? Still not bad legs, are they? They used to be absolute, studness.
That hurts, does it?
Total agony. Not that I mind a bit of agony. Better than nobody ever coming to see me. Wouldn't believe it, my dear, but during the war years, during the Blitz, people would have queued to touch that ankle.
How did you do it?
Dancing. On my own, of course. Alone, of course. I do everything alone nowadays. Can't even have my grandchild come to tea. Have you ever heard of such a thing? I say I'm unsuitable company for young Nick. I was unsuitable company for old Nicholas, too, perhaps. Thank you. You know, when I last saw her, Charlie accused me of not loving her.
Did she?
Of course, she's absolutely right. I mean, I don't think you have to love people just because they happen to be your father or mother or daughter, do you? I mean, Charlie and I didn't love each other. Haven't you found that, Dr. Simcox, that there's absolutely no choice at all in the matter, after all? You look extraordinarily like your father when you do that.
You mean I look mad? That's what my brother wants to prove, that my father was insane. Wybrow's going to give evidence in support of the proposition.
I know. I've given him the day off.
You mean because you believe it's true?
Because I want to do in Titmus. Don't we all? He wanted to join us. He wanted to be part of the family circle. We let him in. And he kicks us in the face. He's got my grandchild. Got it all. And he's got your father's money.
And how did he get that, do you suppose? I mean, without any legitimate claim.
I'll tell you one thing, Dr. Simcox. That four-letter Titmus hasn't any legitimate claims above a charge of buckshot up his backside of his horrid little city gents off the peg suiting.
I don't think he gets them off the peg anymore.
He has no legitimate claims. Get that into your head, Dr. Simcox. No legitimate claims at all. Of any sort.
Don't put any weight on it. Rest it. No more dancing for a while.
That mean the operation is over?
Mm-hmm.
Time for the anesthetic. In the bathroom. We're having the tooth mugs. Why, Brown, looked so disapproving when I asked him to bring drinks up for me. Do you know what I really dread about being old? So at the mercy of one's servants.
Most of my patients don't have that problem.
I shock you, don't I, Dr. Simcox? As I remember, I used to shock your father.
What did you have against Tom Nout?
He was a poacher.
Is that what you had against him?
He got above himself, interfered in other people's lives, and he was the first signs of the national disease, which spread overwhelmingly, and it ended up as Leslie Titmus.
My mother got on well with him.
Yes, your mother got on very well with the most extraordinary people. Would you put the gramophone on for me, please?
You're the top, you're the Colosseum, you're the top, you're the Louvre Museum, you're a melody from a symphony by Strauss, you're an Escadrille.
Why did her ladyship quarrel with Tom Nout, Wybrow? It wasn't just the poaching, was it?
That's all it was, as far as I know. Bridget was in the house the day he called up and they had their row. She didn't talk much about it.
And Bridget's not here.
No, she isn't, is she, Doctor? It's my opinion Bridget always took her work far too seriously.
Bridget?
Yes.
Hello.
Dr. Simcox, you come for the weekend? I got up early to see there's a nice bright fire in your bedroom.
Bridget? Are you happy here?
Oh, it's a lovely old house, of course. But so inconvenient. The job I asked, finding the fireplaces. They got to be done, you know. That Mrs. Smurthwaite, she's that keen on her fireplaces and her stair rods. Well, I've always been particular about my stair rods. But it's not too bad. I helps with the silver in the butler's pantry. We gets a few laughs sometimes when old Smurthwaite's up in her sitting room having her little nap. Or is it her nip, we wonders? There's rules, though, and regulations. Everyone in afore 10 o'clock on your day off, and no followers.
Cup of tea, Doctor.
Thank you.
Bridget? Well, I suppose I can sit down just for a minute. Thank you. Oh, Smurthwaite didn't have to keep her running.
Bridget, I wanted to ask you. Do you remember Tom Nout? Chap who had an old hut in the woods?
Oh, he don't come in no more. Ladyship sent him away. Well, he had no right to do that.
Do what, Bridget?
No right to come round asking her for money.
Well, you heard that.
I was on the stairs polishing up. I couldn't help hearing.
No, of course not. Of course you couldn't. What did he want the money for? Do you remember?
Something he'd seen in the park.
In the park?
Tom Nout had seen something there. And he wanted money for it. Of course, Ladyship sent him about his business. Said she'd ruin him in the district. It's my belief he were ruined already. He never did come to any good, did he?
No. No, he died.
There now. I knew he'd come to no good. Whatever made you think of Tom now?
You have everything you want here, Bridget.
It's just not easy finding the fireplaces. And that Percy Bigwell,
Your husband?
tell him not to come round here all odd hours.
Smurthwaite won't tolerate followers.
Oh, matron. I think she's having trouble finding the fireplaces.
Well, of course she does, seeing we're all central heating. Sometimes I think we ought to send her home, but when I suggest it to her, she cries and thinks I'm giving her the sack. How did you find her, Doctor?
Oh, clear. Absolutely nothing wrong with Bridget's memory.
So far as it goes.
Yes. Wonder how far that is exactly. Anyway, thank you, matron.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Of course, we've heard nothing as yet. Between ourselves, I'm expecting counsel for the Simcox family to sound me out on the questions of a compromise.
Compromise?
With the trial only weeks away, a reasonable settlement with the other side.
You mean we give in? Call them in for beer and sandwiches, give them the money?
Well, it might save you some embarrassment. In your political position.
Why on earth should I be embarrassed? Because the rector wanted to reward me for making something of myself. I'm not going to let old Simeon Simcox down. I had too much respect for him for that.
But what if they manage to prove insanity?
Then we go down fighting. But we're not giving away a penny.
I never really got on with him, if you know what I mean. I suppose, looking back on it, I was doing it as a challenge to my father.
Selling bits and pieces of stolen jewellery in a pub in Worsfield to rival your father's telly programme, Arts in Our Time.
Well, basically, I did it that way because I wanted to get into trouble.
Well, at least you've had one resounding success.
We're not having you on the national health, you know. We're doing this private. I do think you'd better help me, Doctor. I don't think it'd do your family any good if you didn't.
My family?
Gary knows all about your family.
Gary Kitson? What does he know?
He didn't give details. He would, though, if I ever found myself in trouble. He's a good friend, is Gary. I think you ought to take Gary Kitson seriously, Dr. Simcox.
Hello, Ivy. Where's Ted?
Oh, he's round in the garden.
Right. Ted, I see the Kitson's cottage is up for sale. Any idea why?
Cleared out and gone. Of course, it was sudden. The other one, that Mallard Green boy, he never had the sense to scarper.
You don't know where they are?
No. Why, they owe you too, Doctor?
Yes.
Money?
No. Information.
Before we get into the heat and dust of the courtroom arena, before battle is joined, I suggested to my learned junior that we might lay on an informal dinner for our legal team, just so we could get the picture entirely clear, get our act together. So, thanks for your hospitality, Rose.
Delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Super sort of herby taste.
Oh.
Provençal.
Well, I don't know exactly.
Pammy can always lay on something sensational at short notice.
Not a bad drop of Merceau either.
I thought something rather light, if we're going to keep our thoughts in order.
Or oregano.
We have
on
to
a bit
face
of
up to the
oregano.
fact
Well, I can't help you
that
about that,
the
exactly.
burden is on us to prove your father's insanity.
Did he honestly dress up in drag to give marriage guidance? Well, I suppose nowadays that might seem rather trendy.
I'm sure we all understand that the late rector's extraordinary behaviour must have been deeply distressing to his family.
Or is it a touch of tarragon that I'm detecting?
Well, of course, it was deeply embarrassing for all my family. My mother always tried to cover up for him. I think that's why she's refusing to get involved.
Oh, the judge will understand that. Halliburton's reserved the trial to himself.
Mr. Justice Halliburton.
Oh, he's a member of Henry's club.
That won't necessarily be an advantage.
Of course, you'll know Henry by his writing.
I wouldn't rely on that. I never heard of Halliburton reading anything but law reports and recollections of World War II.
I think our medical evidence is in a sound state. Eh, Rose?
Monomania, or an insane aversion to members of his family.
Or an insane affection for Leslie Titmuss. Look, I would like to stress that what my father was suffering from was an insane optimism about the future of the human race.
We want to avoid generalizations with respect.
He suffered from the great insanity of our time, that we'd all get better and better, nicer, kinder, more concerned about each other, less disinterested, more enthusiastically against fox hunting, capital punishment, and nuclear war. The beliefs took hold of him like a disease. They haunted him like strange hallucinations. In the end, they corrupted his thinking and addled his brain. He became terrified of his own wealth and decided to unload it on the most undeserving object he could find.
You mean he wished to leave you the gift of poverty?
Well, that sounds appropriately idiotic, yes.
I'm not sure I like that. It might have some sort of sound religious basis.
You're thinking of the eye of the needle?
I think we're safer with psychotic monomania, and the acts of lunacy were placed in our defense.
I find myself in complete agreement with our instructing solicitor.
Can anyone manage a tiny bit more?
Would it be frightfully piggy of me?
Oh, just seconds for one, if that's at all possible.
My brother Fred is either a natural traitor or he's inherited our father's insanity. I really can't understand Fred's game. He's going about behaving like some sort of seedy amateur sleuth.
I really must ask you for the recipe.
To be brutally honest, the recipe is the visiting kitchen.
Did you say the visiting kitchen?
Yes. She does rather look as though she despised our fitted cupboards, but she leaves it all surprisingly tidy. I can give you the telephone number.
I don't think we need it, do we?
Thanks anyway for the dinner, Pammy. It was absolutely.
Thank you very much. Well, that was a lovely evening, Audrey. Thank you very much. Oh, the loo.
Just down there, on the right.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, that's it.
Did Fred send you here to spy on me?
No. Why should he?
I don't know. He's taken to playing detectives.
I was rung up by Mrs. Rose. How was I to know they were part of your legal mafia?
How much did you hear?
Not a lot. I was busy with Lonnie's second.
You ought to be on our side.
Ought I?
For Francesca's sake.
For her?
Well, she'll benefit eventually, if we end up with the Simcox shares.
You mean if you end up with them?
Money never did any harm to anyone, not even Francesca. All those herbs, they smell of our old quarrels, especially the tarragon.
See you in chambers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very good. Good night.
I was just giving my compliments to the cook.
You must want that recipe frightfully badly.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Get out! How dare you!
Oh, my Lady Grace, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hello?
I'm in here.
I'm prepared to give evidence at your trial.
You'll tell them I'm sick.
Yes, of course. You're suffering from greed. What? You were infected by a strong desire to make money by selling off bits and pieces of jewellery which you and Gary had nicked when you were cleaning windows.
You want me to go in there and say what Gary knows? About the Simcox family?
Yes, I do. What does he know?
I shall have to ask him, won't I?
You may find that hard. Gary seems to have deprived Rapston of his company. Perhaps he didn't want to share the limelight with you in front of the magistrates.
His friends know where to find him.
It'll only be a minute.
Sorry, you're too late.
Hello, Mr. Kitson around, is he?
There is no Mr. Kitson here, my friend.
Well, who runs this place?
O'Leary. Desmond O'Leary.
Where is he?
You can ask in the office.
Right. Thank you. Mr. O'Leary?
He's not here. I'm sick of telling everybody.
Tina.
Dr. Simcox.
Everybody? You mean Simon Mallard Green or the police?
I mean everybody. I don't know where he is. He doesn't tell me anything.
No, I'm sure he doesn't.
I'll tell him you want him if he happens to call in.
Neverest Detective Agency? You're trying to have him traced?
Of course not. Not as worried as all that. That's the guy who came here. Gary sold the man something, did some sort of a deal with him. He seemed pleased. Anyway, I haven't seen much of Gary since then.
Sold him what?
I don't know. Could have been anything, couldn't it? Could have been an old banger for all I know.
Yes, I suppose it could.
I should have guessed.
Hello, Simcox, Minor.
I suppose I thought you might be turning up.
Sherlock Nubble. The last time I saw you, you were a journalist.
A bit of a cover, that, actually. Of course, I do manage to pick up the odd bit of gossip from time to time. Some of that finds its way into the papers.
And some of it you keep for your clients.
Well, that's the name of the game nowadays, isn't it?
What is?
Information. Scotch?
Please. How many games have you been in exactly? I mean, since you ran the delicatessen from the old cello case at school.
Double bass.
Double bass, yes. What was it after that? Coffee bars? Boutiques? Beads and badges at pop festivals? Well, you've certainly kept up with the times, haven't you? What is it now? Missing wives? Divorce cases?
That sort of thing, yes.
What about wills? Collect a little evidence about those, do you? I mean, who is your client in the case of the estate of the late Simeon Simcox?
Titmus versus Simcox and others.
Well, words to that effect, yes. Of course, we met at his house, didn't we? I suppose you're acting for Leslie Titmus.
I say, steady on, Simcox minor. You're doing me an injustice. Anyway, I understand Titmus is a bit of a shit.
Well, they speak of him as a future Prime Minister.
That's probably why. No, I wouldn't act for Titmus. One has a certain loyalty. I mean, we were all at Knuckleberry's together. All three of us. You and I.
And Henry. Henry hired you to check up on Leslie Titmus.
And to collect evidence for his case.
And to stop me collecting evidence which might make his case impossible. Is that what Henry asked you to do?
I can't think what you're suggesting, Simcox minor.
Can't you? There is a bit of evidence. I'm not at all sure what it is, except that it throws a great deal of light on our family circumstances. An appalling youth called Gary Kitson managed to get hold of it by some means or another, probably theft, and you have just bought it from Gary. I don't imagine it's anything which my big brother thinks I ought to know about.
Your big brother hasn't said anything about it.
Oh, hasn't he?
In fact, we haven't had time to discuss it.
Have you not? Then it's a piece of virgin evidence, untouched by the interested parties?
If it exists.
And if it exists, I'd like to see it. Please, Nubby.
You never got on with Simcox, Major, did you?
Not specially.
I took to you at school, Simcox. I wanted you to be my friend. None of the others had much time for me.
I remember.
You told me once you were treacherous. Was that true?
Possibly. Treacherous to Henry.
Why?
My father may have had his failings, plenty of them, but he wasn't insane. I'm never going to let that be said. Never.
What can you offer me for this?
Money, I suppose. Isn't that the name of the game nowadays?